Hi, Jordan. Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
hi James.
Yeah, great to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me, man.
Yeah, so you've built two tech platforms that serve over 10,000 users, and you've generated millions in revenue all before turning 30. That's pretty impressive. What's been driving you at the core of that journey?
That's an interesting question, man. So I think it started really from where I came from. I grew up in third generation of Chinese immigrants. My grandparents built from nothing, and my parents, work insanely hard to give us a chance to me and my little brother. And I think that work ethic runs like super deep into our family. I grew up like, middle class, suburbs of Paris. And I think like that environment made me extremely, so I like to say in French, there's a word called débrouillard. It's like someone who, literally, you have to be resourceful, independent, quick on your feet as well. And I think one thing that I had to master early on, because of, again, in my family, parents were super busy with work, and is how to be alone. And I think this is super useful at the beginning when you are building something, especially from the outside. There are long stretches where literally like no one gets your vision, especially, my parents literally didn't understand what I was doing, right? So you're quite alone. You're carrying weight that no one sees, and you have to learn to be on your own and your own accountability and your own confidence. And the thing is, like, I was quite lucky enough. I had mentors like that literally changed my life, and I will discuss this a little bit later. I think there's one that helped me to break into the finance job. Back in the day, I was like chasing for the six-figure salary dream job, and the most important lesson came from another mentor. He's a founder, and this is someone that I admire like deeply. And he told me something that really, changed my entire perspective of life. When you build something, especially by yourself, you always want to have like 100% ownership into it. And he told me something like, if you want to build something that lasts, create a system that's fair and where everyone wins. And back in the day, I didn't understand what he was saying, but now I understand completely, right? And I think that idea shape how I myself scale teams, tech, and how I structure partnership to this day. And again, it's a long journey. I test a lot. I fail often, and I move fast now. But again, never lead by money or success. Right now, I'm mostly lead by purposes and impact. And that's why, I keep showing up even on the hard days, and especially on the hard days.
Yeah, some pretty key points you mentioned there. I mean that long journey at the start, it's like super delayed gratification, and yeah, everyone around you doesn't really get what you're doing. Like I resonate a lot with that. I have a lot of support from my family, but it was kind of in the back of my mind, it was kind of like friends, and like it's almost
Exactly.
like what are you do like what are you doing, like, and then it's almost, it takes a while. There's loads of failures. It's a bit like I told you so. Like, what are you doing? And you need to get out of that sort of need for approval and just stick with, what you're doing, and stick with it over a long period of time. And then yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's a crazy journey, but yeah, it's super rewarding. Super. You've got to fall in love with the journey. And
They
yeah,
don't understand sometimes, like you're working on the weekend, staying late night. They don't understand. They say, hey, mate, do you want to go for a beer, for a drink? You always say, I can't, man.
uh,
And sometimes you just part away with
uh,
some of those friends, right? Who didn't understand what you're doing, or even sometimes with family, unfortunately, I would
uh,
say. So yeah, it's a lonely journey, and
uh,
loneliness is it's a core thing that I learned over the years.
for sure. And I guess it's a little bit different now because, I mean, back when you started and same back when I started, it wasn't cool. It was weird, like being out there on the internet, creating content. That was strange, and like personal development was weird. Like, and
Yeah.
I was just the weird kid at school, right, reading like Tony Robbins books and that sort of thing. Um, Whereas now it's kind of changed. It's a
Yeah.
lot more. There's big names in the space, and it's yeah, I think it's cooler. So yeah, it's interesting times. And then the other thing that you mentioned there, like creating systems to win, that makes a lot of sense. Um, and you're talking about obviously winning for yourself, for the business, for your customers, for your team, for everybody, right? You're creating a system where it's win-win. You're getting buy-in, and people are bought into that vision, and the system, the plan to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That part is constantly evolving, right? Around the customer, from the feedback from the team also, like the objective of the team change over the time. Back in the day was mostly focusing on B2B. And now I'm trying to change the incentive method for my team for more community management. So engagement of our community is more important. So you change the entire system, and then you have to make them understand, okay, the objective have changed. And what is really cool is like from the start, you create this kind of empathy with your team. So they're just rolling out with you, right? It's like almost like ride or die type of relationship. So it's quite easy to change a little bit the incentive, but they understand quickly. So it's important to have a good team around you.
Mm. Yeah. And what was the key moment that made you leave your traditional finance path? You said chasing that sort of six-figure salary and then launch your first startup.
Yeah. I think it wasn't one moment. It was like literally, something step by step. But again, I think the switch, I think if I remember correctly, was when my side hustle, the coaching for students who wants to break into finance, start to outgrow my full-time job. And, I've been running a small lifestyle business. So while studying at university, so like nothing fancy, right? Just something I want to build to learn and make a little bit extra cash, right? But it started to gain real traction, like real traction. And at the same time, I was surrounded again by people who thought differently. And I mean, fortunately for this, and one of them is my mentor, Stefan. So I mentioned his name. He had invested into tons of startups, and he saw something in me before I fully did. And again, he told me, you got the mindset, right? The question is, do you have the courage, right? And that's, man, like really hit me so hard that, I literally on the spot, I think like 1 week later, I just, give my resignation letter. And nobody understand, right? In investment banking, most of the people goes to, private equity, venture capital, right? And when I give my resignation letter, I say, I want to build something, but that was like not super clear. And I remember my managing director just asked me basically like, are you sure this is what you want? Right. And again, yeah, I say, yeah, I realized that I didn't want to, chase salary or even get like, bus around, because again, I think this came from what we discussed before, right? How to be alone. I become really, really independent, and having, someone managing you was like not my type of, not my cup of tea, I would say. And again, I was literally like trading my time, my creativity, and I realized that I have creativity, later on, uh, and the potential impact, right? And most importantly, when Stefan told me this, I said to myself, okay, you have nothing to lose. And again, if you fail today, you can always go back to this job. But if you never try, you will always wonder what could have happened. And I
Mm,
think that's the key part. Like that was my conclusion, during this 1 week
mm.
thinking.
Mm. That's really interesting. That's happened. So a few founders, CEOs that I've had on here that, asking about that leap from a career, it's the mindset of, yeah, you are taking on that risk, but at the end of the day, you can always you've always got options. If it doesn't work out, you
Exactly.
can always go back. It's yeah, it's definitely reduces the fear, reduces that risk. So you've built both a recruitment platform and a coaching business. How
Yeah.
do they both connect?
Yeah. So the coaching business, as you know, I started very early, right? It was like coaching students to get jobs. So at the end, you can think about it's almost like recruitment, right? You are basically catering candidates, coaching them, mentoring them to find a job, right? That's the final outcome. And what I call this is the return on investment for my clients. And then, recruitment start, you know, again, like I got like a few missions, right? I was literally having 3 missions. I was working by myself. I was running like in the entire process solo, right? Exactly with the coaching business, like sourcing, pre-vetting the candidate, and then closing the deal. And I think that experience also opened my eyes that, I was stuck with only 3 clients, right? I can't do anymore. And I realized, okay, recruitment, you can make big fees. But the thing is, like, I was literally spending like half of my time and the other half was on the coaching business. So this is why, I find some friend who work in recruitment and I say, hey, man, let's split the deals. I bring you the clients, you close the deals. And, that's again, that's where CrossPath was born. And today we are a collaborative marketplace that connect freelance recruiter, recruitment agency to share roles, talent, and close deals much faster. So no fluff, just result. But as we grew, I see like a pattern as well. And a lot of people in the community didn't need just like missions, right? They need tools. And this is how right now it's the next step of CrossPath, which is like constructing tools for them. And then it's really funny as well for the coaching business. Um, with time, the students also need tools, right? And the tools, so I won't disclose much more on this because we're still building at the moment, but the tools we are talking about are very, very common and has to do something with connection at the end of the day. So I would say this is not a direct answer to your question, but I would say like both business in 2026 will have a big synergy aspect.
Mm. Yeah, really cool. I see that, that you've got that network effect, like synergy aspect that's just it grows as more people come in to each, and it's just you've got a sort of flywheel going on. Um so the jump from your banking finance career to the startups, what were the hardest lessons, early on? What were the hardest lessons that you learned?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, man, it's like you. So it's like the biggest shock that you have realizing that a CEO, always we think like CEO is like something so cool, but it literally mean CEO of everything officer, right? So in banking, roles are really defined. There's a strong HR team. There's a strong, IT system. I remember in banking, even we do a lot of presentation. Like most of the time, we spend like hours doing presentation, financial modeling, and we have like a support team that do everything for us. So you can just outsource it to them. So they are based in Philippines or India, and literally like the thing is like at the beginning you can't outsource anything, right? You're just yourself. My CTO Gaetan, right? So you're the marketer, the recruiter, the manager, the legal team, the product person, and I was even like struggling, to order the merch for CrossPass for our clients. You know, sometimes when you close a deal, you want to buy a mug with a logo CrossPath on it. I was like designing on the mugs. When we go to event, you know, we have the hoodie CrossPath, and I was, you know, literally struggling to find which logo is better to display. And then, you know, Amazon, you know, we lost track of the packages. So you need to call customer support, etc., etc. So that's literally like everything, right? And man, like I made a lot of mistake early on. And I think this is especially due to my background. Like usually in investment banking, especially in the UK, if you know, you really have this kind of like sense of elite, right? Elitism. Uh, it's like top university who go to investment banking. And my biggest issue, and I'm still learning today, it's hiring people. It's a problem that I'm trying to solve myself or my client, but it's a big, big topic. And team management. And I assume, like, you know, back in the day, if someone looks great on paper, good education, good school, good experience, big names on the CV, they will fucking deliver, right? I was fucking wrong on that part. And I think we almost got, you know, we almost went out of cash. I can say it very, very easily on this part. Because, you know, at the beginning, we were really wanting to try to attract A-list players into the team. But again, big salary, big expectation on these people. So it didn't match, right? And people from, I think, big corporates, you know, they can't be the everything officer, right? It's the switch is hard, right? On that part. And again, that was super hard on that part. So it taught me the hard way. Skills are important, but I think if you want to recruit people in startup, it's the mindset that is mostly more important. And if they believe the product, because most of the time, you know, in startup, you need to sell the product. So if they don't believe the product, and the first thing when I do an interview, the guy asked me about salary, compensation, you know, first interview, like I'm okay for like final round to discuss all of this. But usually if a candidate tell me about salary and everything, that's kind of like a red flag, I would say. I would prefer him or her to talk about the product, the improvement we can make, and everything. And the other part was fundraising. That part was, I would say, not easy, but more easy for me because thanks to my finance background, I can speak the, you know, the investor language. But I think the hard part for me was pitching. I literally took a coach to help me to do just like the one sentence to summarize your startup, like the values. And at the beginning, I thought it was like super bullshit in a way. But then, you know, you start to realize like, hey, you need to hire people, you need to sell the project, right? You need to have investor on board, you need to sell the project. You need to have client on board, you need to sell the project, and you need to have headhunter, you need to sell the project as well. But everything else I need to learn by doing, failing. I think there's no playbook for this, to be honest. You just figure out, you know, why moving. That's why I always have a quote like on Silicon Valley, like people are not afraid to test, right? And I realized that some people there, they just go. They're not the smartest people on the planet, but they just fucking go, right? And in Europe, like what I realized, especially like in the startup community, like a lot of people wants to make everything perfect, right? And the thing is, like in the US, the mentality might be completely different. It's really like the fake it until you make it, right? But I love this idea because at the end of the day, you will get feedback from user very, very quickly. And this is something that I learned because in banking, again, they teach you how to be perfect, right? The slide, the presentation, align the logo, change the color, make sure everything is clean before, you know, sending anything. So again, biggest lesson, you can't delegate what you don't understand. So that's why, you know, I'm doing personal branding. marketing. And once I understand this, I will hire someone full time for this. And you have to go through the mess to build something real.
Mm. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree with that. You can't delegate what you don't understand. You've got to start as a startup. It's probably different in bigger companies where you then bring in teams that understand things that you don't need to. But yeah, as a startup founder, and it's that mindset of wearing all the hats and then starting to delegate things that just become the repetitive, lower leverage tasks, and really looking at the tasks that you're working on. Are they the highest leverage, or can you delegate? Can you bring in someone to take over things? And yeah, it's it's definitely a very interesting journey. So CrossPath, it has now got 10,000 recruiters or more, all with your product-led growth. What do you attribute that traction to?
That's an interesting question. Because at the beginning, there's no product-led growth, right? We're not like Dropbox, we are not those kind of company that can attract people heavily at the beginning. I'm trying to say, because the concept was quite new in a way. So at the beginning, it was not a PLG playbook at all. Honestly, it started really small. Like I said, I was taking 3 missions, of hiring clients. And in the beginning, we didn't have marketing budget or big launch because we put all the money on the merch. Now I'm just joking. Uh, it was just me testing, failing, iterating, sending cold emails, using LinkedIn to find like early believers. And I was literally, testing like different sequence of emails, LinkedIn, there was like different type of persona. Literally people who put career transition. I would say, hey to them, hey, you want to be a recruiter, right? That was a big fail. When people put career transition in on LinkedIn, is not like literally something, a big persona. But then I realized on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people who work for agencies full time. And those are the people I think get burnout, right? From the KPIs. And I don't know if you know this concept of a 360 recruiter. It's basically someone who do clients and candidates at the same time.
Mhm.
And they
Okay.
put them like crazy pressure on KPIs. So that was, after testing, iterating and everything, I realized that that was the my persona, my ICP,
Mm,
right? If you want to say correctly. And they were, the early believers. But again, it was super manual. But again, every conversation that I had with them um, brings me a lot of things and teach me a lot of things that a recruiter that wants to launch his side hustle, right, in recruitment. And this is something like super interesting because once we started, we didn't start in the UK. We started a little bit everywhere. I really wanted to test, okay, what about the German market? What about the French market? Let's just call 10 guys over there and see how they react, right? And then you realize, okay, this market might be hard to go in, right? Go to market strategy because of culture. The market is maybe saturated already. So you just learn from this. Again, I think the biggest growth hack we had, and I was quite surprised because usually when you think about recruiter, they are quite selfish in a way. It's when we put the referral link, right, on the platform. So I realized there was one guy who literally was every day posting the referral link, and he gets like 200 more user in just one day. And he was just posting on how great the platform was without using it. And I think it was like the pitching part. I had a call with him, and he really adopted the vision of this. And I think that's changed my entire perception of like, again, what we discussed, like you need to build something great. But at the beginning, it will be like just 10 believers, right? You just do everything for free for them. You just do everything. He was asking me, okay, what kind of tool you use for recruitment? And I sent him my playbook. how do you get clients? How do you structure a contract? Everything. I was just literally calling them. You can call my WhatsApp, straight away. And this is how, I think at the beginning we have like early adopters, but we focus on making now CrossPath easy, fast, and collaborative. And even sometimes, the loading page, sometimes it takes like probably, I would say 2 seconds. But the idea is to get like how we can get, divide the time by 4 so people can having the best product, and also thinking about the kind of tool, actually what they need. And I think at the beginning was not PLG, but then, with time and of course we get more missions on the platform, it become PLG. But at the beginning, I don't believe that that was obvious, for a lot of recruiter to be PLG
Mm,
play.
mm. Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting to hear that sort of early, just getting out there, being really scrappy. It's manual and just doing all the heavy lifting to talk to as many people, test as much as possible. And then it sounds like, yeah, you found that real high pain point with the 360 concept that you mentioned, and that was
Yep.
just a huge pain point. And then as soon as you kind of found that angle, people would open up, and you've just got a great solution to relieve that pain. Really interesting. What makes CrossPath models so different from traditional recruitment platforms?
That's a very interesting question. And again, as you think like this is like there's two type of persona on the platform. So the first persona, it's the recruiter, right? The external recruiter. So there's three type of persona, like sub type of persona. So let's take the freelance recruiter who has been doing this for 2 years, 5 years, right? Again, you can't be a 360 recruiter for me. Otherwise, you won't be on my platform. If you're able to do sales and also sourcing candidates, you don't need a platform like us, to be honest. You maybe just need collaboration or tools. But for them, it's to find mission, because I'm posting on LinkedIn, as you know, and I'm posting very polarizing and, no bullshit, just direct stuff. And I was literally displaying like two type of a recruiter. There is the nice recruiter who sang mugs, who always think about the candidates and everything, who think the candidate is almost the client, right? And there's the second type of recruiter, which is like the closer, very close to the client, almost like an advisor, right? Type of people. And then those recruiter, the nice recruiter, it's my persona, because when I asked them like, okay, are you able to do BD? They told me, no, I don't want to have any calls. I just use my network, right? But I'm trying to understand what is network today in business, right? Oh, I have a huge network. But man, like, come on. You can't get clients or recurring clients like this. So those recruiter, we solve a huge pain point, because again, we have a lots of missions on the platform. So it helps them a lot. Agency, it's quite interesting what we're trying to solve for them. It depends on the agency, right? If I'm say medium-sized agency, sometimes, they have too much missions, right? And what I'm trying to say right now is I don't believe at all the agency model, because first of all, the business model in headhunting is a contingency model. So it means like, you get reward if you place one candidate, but you have very high fixed costs, such as salary, full-time people and everything. So those people are attracted to our platform because they can put missions on the platform and then let other recruiters to make the job. And those people will be paid if you get paid, right? So that's kind of the model. But if you have, high salary, high fixed cost and everything, that's kind of like difficult for you. Maybe, there's some agency I know they fire a lot of people because the business is like so seasonal, right? It's not your clients doesn't want to use your service. It's just they can't, man, because economy is doing bad. You can't hire, right? So those are the people. And the last persona that I'm trying to get is literally everybody. right, can be a recruiter. So that's like take times, personal branding, and everything. So that takes like much more time. But I'm trying to understand, what's going to pick their interest to do a job as a recruiter. And for clients, what differentiate from us from traditional agencies? So it's quite simple. So let's take a client, right? They are international clients. They want to hire in France, in the US, South America, Middle East. How do they work? I work with a lot of them, actually 800, but it's not 800 like large customer, but I would say like it's maybe 10% large customer. And usually it's very, very painful for them. The talent acquisition team or the HR team, so internal, they manage 100 agencies, right? So 100 agencies, sometimes it's like 100 loop of emails. You put them on competition. They have no idea what are the success fee they sign because they always say, I always ask them like, how was the success fee with this agency? They say, oh, it's my manager, my former manager. He already left the company. He signed the deals. But I'm saying, it's very, very it's the chaos, I would say. They put in competition, they make some recruiter works, but the mission is already closed, right? Because again, they don't have time for this. So what we sold for them is like a streamlined platform. One contract, one invoice. No need to sign 20 different contracts with 20 different agency where you need to negotiate and everything. The second part is selection of agencies, right? Or freelance recruiter. We track every aspect of those recruiter. We track their performance. So first of all, quality of sourcing. So from 10 CV I sent to this client, how many of them go to interview, right? The speed is really important, especially in a contingency model. People are paid by the success, right? And recruiter, it's very legitimate, I would say, because if they see the speed of the client is too slow, they will slow down as well, right? So a platform like us, like a trust platform like us, can make them move a little bit quicker. So think like the Uber model at the beginning. You are at Heathrow, you ask for a taxi back in the day, or me in France, like Paris Charles de Gaulle. You ask the taxi guy, you say, "Are you available?" Right? You see nobody on the seat, right? Nobody, no passenger, and they say, I already have a client, right? Because it's picking up a client, right? So for us, it's the same. Like the client is asking us if this recruiter is free, because every time on our platform, we'll ask if the recruiter is free. Do you have capacity? Do you have capacity? Do you have capacity? Right? So we know which one has capacity. And the third part, I would say that is really, really important. I strongly believe in any industry. If someone tell you I'm able to do every sector, that's fucking bullshit, man. If they tell you, hey, I can do tech recruitment, I can do marketing recruitment, I can do banking recruitment, I can do HR recruitment, that's like either this guy is having like 100 years of experience, right, in everything, otherwise it's just bullshitting, right? So we ask for portfolio, credentials, and everything, and also like location, geographies, right? So for clients, it's quite easy to use one single platform, and then they have pre-vetted recruiter. I would say that this is like literally how we differentiate. So then we hire faster and better, and also cheaper because the supply is getting better. So the taxi versus the Uber model.
Mm. Yeah, really nice, really nicely yeah, put all that to that question. I can see how coming back to that mental model that you had sort of at the beginning, where you're creating a system where everybody can win. I can see that at play here when you're just obviously you're iterating, improving all these different systems to come into one combined solution platform for a certain number of yeah, it's really interesting. What's what's been the biggest operational or strategic challenges of scaling this two-sided marketplace like you mentioned?
Yeah, I think like the biggest challenges we have to scale, I would say first the coaching business. I think coaching business is not really something scalable at all because again, I think scalability is not about the size of the market is about the retention of your customer. That is really important, because if you do just a coaching business, like many online guru, some of them I really respect a lot, right? But it's almost like one shot, right? It's always one shot, one shot. And for the coaching career business, is once the student gets the job, he won't use your service anymore, right? So for the scalability, so me and my other co-founder on this project, we come up with a solution, and we are building a new solution. It's a one-stop shop platform. Again, it's always one-stop shop platform for students to all of their interviews, right? From networking, the importance of networking is really important. You cannot just rely on job board nowadays. A lot of students cannot, or, I receive a lot of CVs, right? And sometimes I'm just thinking like, oh, those CVs are not formatted at all. We do also AI interview test prep, cheaper than any coach. Usually a career coach charge like $200 per hour. Us is like $10, and you can have literally the company's type of interview, and the AI just train you with it. And we have also, I don't know if you know, but in big companies, they have those kind of like psychometric tests, logical, numerical, so the student can also train. But for scaling this business, my thinking is B2B. We talk to a lot of university career center um, everywhere. This is a big pain point for them, right? Because nowadays it's always about this questions: what higher education brought on the table, right? I think, in my opinion, not everybody can be an entrepreneur, because otherwise we won't have any employees, right? And I think some people don't have this kind of mindset at all. So for university, right, when you pay tuition fees, it's to place your students, right, in a way. So if you want to place those students, you need to equip them, right? And the issue with career center is very similar to headhunters. Have you been to like career center counselor at your university, or have you talked to one before?
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I haven't.
you
I think
haven't?
I did something similar in I think I did something similar in high school.
Yeah, yeah. And then they come up, they have no idea what they're talking about, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah, for
say,
sure.
hey,
It's all
I would like to have some advices, on this. They are too generous. It's the same.
it's
The
almost
correct
scary.
counselor,
Like
it's
when you're
very
at such
scary.
a young age, it's
Yeah,
scary, man. You're like your path is like
exactly.
printed out in front of you, and I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Exactly. You're always thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be like, a football star, whatever,
Yeah,
basketball,
yeah,
astronauts, that kind of stuff. And then they
yeah.
tell you like, hey, I think you are most suitable for that. And then when you get interested in university or in high school, you go to them, you say, hey, I'm having this interview for an internship for this company. The guys have no fucking clue what they're talking about. It's the same with headhunter. You can't be specialist of everything, right? So that's why, we are building this kind of platform for students, but we want to sell to the school. So retention, because I know that once you plug the system into their system, they are too lazy to get rid of it.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah,
retention part on the coaching part. For CrossPath, the retention, the scalability problem right now that we have, and I can be very honest with you, is we have too much nice recruiter. So the thing is like they are not, I mean, it's cool to have nice recruiter who are nice with candidates and everything, but man, we need like savage people. Like we need really people who get the phone, get clients, put them on the platform, close faster, right? So that's why I think like unifying a tool of like BD tool for everybody, cheaper than anything on the market, we just unify them in a way. So that's kind of like the scalability issues we have on both sides.
yeah, really interesting. And so with Edge Skills and CrossPath, how do you manage running both companies at the same time? Like mentally, logistically, emotionally?
Yeah, yeah. It's quite tough, man. I Yesterday night I finished at 3 a.m. something like this. because we are in the sprint on the product right now. Usually I'm not, I'm always like work-life balance. I'm trying. But again, the problem that I have right now, it's really like I'm working probably like 16 to 18 hours a week, I would say. I'm trying to take one day off, right? But I think the biggest support that I have a few like very close friends. And this is literally what we mentioned earlier, with the early question you asked me. Sometimes you just part away with different people. It's not
For
because,
sure.
it's just like interest and everything.
Mm,
I always hang out with my childhood mates. Always. They are like the support system you want to break off. They just tell you about some of the problem they have, with their girlfriends, 9 to 5 jobs, how exhausting is, to finish at 5:30 instead of 5 p.m., So you listen, but you don't have any judgments, right, around
for
this.
sure.
But nowadays I constitute like yourself, right? A small group of like people who really, really want to do it, right? And we kind of like share some of the issue and motivate, I would say, each other. So that's like my personal support system, and of course family in general. Second support system, and I'll always want to thanks my team. Like this is so important, man. This is so important. It's like I think the first lesson that I learned the best is again hiring the right co-founder. It's not even hiring, right? Sorry for my, I'm always talking about hiring with CrossPath, right? It's to find the right partner in life.
Mm,
Uh, your girlfriend, your wife, and I think co-founder is the same. Like
mm,
it's so, so, so important. And at the beginning, you know, I won't suggest to be co-founder with your friend or loved one. I think it's quite complicated.
mm,
I had this discussion with my parents because they were working together, right? But I think back in the day was like much easier to do that. Nowadays, right, it's kind of hard to tell your friend, man, hey man, we need to fucking sprint, right? You didn't do this, you didn't do that, and just break friendship or relationship in a way.
mm,
So very important to have this kind of like co-founders or teams that really support you throughout the journey. The task is at the beginning, everybody say, okay, it's a startup. It's true that everybody won't have to do a little bit of everything, but let's set the roles, the responsibility for everybody, and you are accountable, right, by yourself because you are a co-founder in the company, right? If you
mhm,
want this to grow much faster, we need to put effort into it, right? And I always tell my co-founder at the beginning, it's like, right now we can talk about shares, we can talk about valuation, potential valuation on paper. Sorry for my language, whatever the fuck you want. But now the company at the start, it's worth zero, 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 zeros. Either I don't want to be, 100% owner of a company that is worth zero. I prefer to have 5% of a company maybe worth billions, right?
mm,
So that's the issue at the beginning, and everybody has like different stages. And I agree. When I was younger, I want ownership. 100%, right? I want
mm,
100%. But again, it's not worth the time. Like you're going to spend a lot of time burning out yourself and everything. So for me now, it's really my support system is my co-founder, and we are very complementary on edge skills of the coaching business. Kara is it's a marketing wizard. She pushed me so much to do personal branding. On CrossPath, Philip is execution guy. Like he's the go-to guy. Like he's so like he read the contract, he reads everything. He's just like the he was in banking too, so he's the perfect guy like to read all of the details and
mm,
everything. And Gaetan, my CTO, man, he quit school when he was like 14. You know why? He hacked the middle school computer system. He's always coding,
mm,
always coding. But I'm learning so much from them, and they are learning from me. Like Gaetan, when present him to clients at the beginning, he can't even talk, I would say, to client in general. So
Mm.
he learned this from me. I learned about the product from him. So yeah, the team is so important on this part to manage those kind of two business.
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah, I totally agree, and that becomes your sort of close network that you're building with. You've all got to have that sort of startup mentality to, almost
Yeah,
do everything it takes to work. And it's the authentic, open conversations that you've got to have with people sometimes that can be difficult, and it takes courage to have those. And if you can have those with your closest, leadership team and those that are closest around you, it's amazing what happens when you do open up and overcome the fear, I guess, of maybe pushing people away, causing friction. It almost has the opposite effect if you all
exactly.
have that same
Mm,
authenticity.
yeah.
So yeah, always interesting. And so your team, the people that you mentioned there, how does that happen for you? Because you're in recruitment, so you understand the game of recruitment. Does it have? Are you very proactive in sort of building that close network? Is it proactive? Does it come organically over time? How does that work?
You mean for my team, recruitment, internal team, or external, like for my
For
clients?
for the people that you mentioned, so your internal, like, closest
Wow,
leadership team.
that's I think that's the hardest question, man. It's like almost asking a VC, why have you invested into those guys, right? With
Mm,
zero product, with zero anything.
mm,
I think it's so let me tell you the story about each business, but very quickly.
mhm,
So Edge Skills, when I find Kara, she was blowing up online, right?
mm,
She was blowing up online. She'd make one podcast, like, and then she blew up online, right? And I see so many traction of like students and everything following her, asking her for advice. So, and then, we start to talk. She's Italian, so she's like very, very direct, you see, like, no bullshit with her, no fluff, no anything, right? So then I ask her, and she always joke about this, right? I ask her to be head of marketing, right? And she took it very, very wrong at the beginning. And she told me that the first time I met her, she was like 20, 25, 24. She told me like she wants to be millionaire in 2 years, right? So I see the ownership, the grit, from her, and I say, okay, that one was pretty easy for me to know this. Philip, I met him when we were at Lazar as intern. Um, Literally, he was my go-to guy because we were finishing late night pizza, delivery at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. Lazar is like super, super tough, like in terms of hours and everything. So I know that I'm not the best. I'm good at execution, like high level, but not the detail part, right? Because I realize sometimes when I sign a contract, right, they have some clause and everything that I didn't read through because I want so much to sign the deal at the beginning, right? So he read through everything. Gaetan, I met him. That was gut feeling. I met him in a tech networking event in Paris, and the guy was literally not talking. Like he was the guy, on the table by himself and not talking, right? And when I saw him, and I was looking for a CTO, right? And I saw him, and I say, "Oh, will you be interested to join the project?" Like that was on the gut, right? Sometimes you just introduce yourself and everything, but I say, "Okay, that's my guy,"
mm,
because I think the day before I watched like most of billionaires, like tech guys, are like introvert a lot.
mm.
So I said, "Yeah, we need a introvert guy." And then he told me about his credential. He say he act a school, an entire school system at 14. So he told me not to tell anybody, but now he's cool with it. But then I say, okay, that's my guy. But yeah, it's
Mm.
gut feeling, man. at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
gut feeling.
Yeah, really interesting. That those are really interesting stories, and it's fascinating to know that you're in you're literally in the recruitment space, but so much of it is not necessarily mechanical and formulaic. It's
Okay.
there's a lot of
I would like to add one point. Early
okay,
stage is gut feeling, but what
okay,
I advise my client is to use a scorecard.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
When you are in a big, business and everything, it
yeah.
has to be scorecard. But yeah, early stage, definitely agree with you, man, on this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. That totally makes sense because you've got to, at the end of the day, like as a startup founder, like you're just finding your way. So
Exactly,
most
man.
decisions are gut feel. You might even not think that at the time, but yeah, a lot of it is. But when you scale, you systemize and scale a company, then it becomes, that there are patterns there that you can follow as recipes. So that makes a lot of sense. There's loads of questions I want to ask you, Jordan,
Yeah.
but we're kind of coming close to time, so
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
just leave it. I'll just leave it with this last one, and maybe we can have you back another time. Um, but what's the because you've mentioned impact a few times. So
Mhm.
what's the bigger vision behind your work? What kind of legacy or impact are you hoping to create with what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So in terms of like legacy, I think my entire life, um, again, grew up in Chinese immigrants family. When you integrate to the French society in general, it's like the Chinese people tell you you're not really Chinese, right? The French people tell you you're not very French, right? So you're always in between. But I realized like the in between is a good advantage, right? And I always had this kind of like disruption mindset, right? I would say. And my short term, medium term goal is really to focus on this tool business. It's really like, it's more important than everything. I want to disrupt two industry, make them, like Stefan said, my mentor, fair as possible, win-win situation, faster, and most importantly, empowering, people. Because like yesterday, I started to do some content creation. I have like so many testimonial of recruiter, you know, when they say that this platform, I won't say change their life, right? But make their business easier and make them more money, right? Charging over like some of them, charging over 100K per year. No middleman, no bullshit and everything, right? And for career coaching, again, I really want to give access. So this one is more impactful in legacy, I would say, is to give them access to the higher education that they deserve. And I think like this is something we didn't have. And I think the school system is like falling down, lagging behind so much that today, some kids, if they tell me like, hey, I don't want to go to university for X, Y, Z reason, and those reasons are valid, I would say, man, fuck yeah, man, don't go to university. Start your side hustle and everything, right? And I think the bigger version for me, it will be like a world where your career is not defined by luck, privilege, and who you know, but by the system that works for everyone, right? And legacy I want for myself is, of course, like people have a good memories of me, empower professionals, young people, transform industry and platforms, or tech, because now my legacy will be tech, I think, that actually creates a good income for everybody.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Really appreciate you coming on. Where can people find? Because I know you're getting out there and growing your personal brand now. So where can people find out more about you online?
Yeah, so I started like LinkedIn, so you can type Jordan Hu, HU, and also on TikTok and Instagram on this part. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Jordan. Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. It was very fascinating to listen to your insights, and yeah, I'll be watching your growth with great interest.
thank you so much, James. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.